Welcome to day 6 of Meta. Today we have one and only Nisha Susan from Canada. Thank you, ma'am, so much for joining us. It's
My pleasure.
7:30 a.m. apparently, so a very good morning to you.
Good morning or evening.
Right. Please imagine a big round of applause and lots of hoots. Proper Meta. Um, right. I want to begin by saying a little bit about when I became full fida for Nisha Susan. Um, Unlike a lot of my friends, this happened very slowly for me when I realized that when everyone seems to be measuring work in terms of how much is there or how little is there, Nisha Susan seemed to be doing it in terms of how fun it is or how to make something boring fun, right? Because when I found out about the Pink Chaddi campaign, I was like, what a mad way to respond to something like that. And I also read that, ma'am, once in an interview, your journalism, someone interviewing you for the journalism course apparently laughed at you and said you don't write so well, and you laughed right back. Because that would have shattered me, right? It takes one great feat of imagination to be able to look at a situation where you have a script ready, uh, that other people lay out for you, but you seem to say, okay, what else can we do? So that was like, this very slow thing that I really really like about Nisha Susan. So I'm very very happy to be here. Thank you so much again for joining us, ma'am.
I'm thrilled to be here. I feel like being a guest at any St. Joseph's event is like a spa treatment, Like if you get a coupon, you must immediately go and then feel very good about yourself. Um, this anecdote, I don't know in what context I shared it, but um, it's typical of a Joseph's event that you have dug up something that I have forgotten, and now you've managed to make me feel very good about it also in the morning. It's quite amazing. So I'm very happy to be here.
I'm very, very, very glad. Um, I want to begin by asking you about something that's been irritating me, and I want to know what the Nisha Susan way of dealing it would be. Uh, I teach journalism now, and one of the things that I've noticed across universities and in academia in general is that people don't seem to care if the journalism teacher actually does journalism or not.
Mm,
Uh,
mm,
they seem to care more about whether you tick some boxes. Even like people who have written books about journalism don't seem to have done journalism, right? That
mm,
doesn't seem to be an important thing uh, in the teaching of journalism. And all my teachers, when I was doing the course as a undergrad student, they seem to be practitioners of the field, and I've been taught that journalism is one of the things that you need to practice to actually teach. All subjects are, but this especially. So I want to know, how does one, a young teacher maybe, reconcile with the absurdity of a situation like this?
So your question is, what do you do if you're a teacher, right? That's your question.
Yeah.
Hmm. So I think it depends on what you're aiming to teach, because you can certainly aim to teach writing, right? Um, I don't know, you can look at the form as um, text, right? And teach people to write. And that's certainly possible even if you don't have a ton of journalism experience. You can look at the form of various kinds of writing and teach. And I think that's fine. But I also feel like there's a pragmatic element in journalism, in traditional journalism, where you're not training to be a freelance writer, but you're training to be part of a newsroom. And that is a smaller and smaller field now, but in that field it is a problem solving sort of space also. You work with other people to solve problems, like how do we cover this is a big question. How do we cover this is more aesthetic, but it's also pragmatic. It's also like, how do I get into this building? Sometimes you can't get into the building,
Hmm.
and sometimes the question is, when everybody leaves the building, do you also leave? And actually, somebody who's experienced in a newsroom will teach you not to leave, right? Like if there is an event, and I don't mean an event like a cultural event, but even a cultural event, they might teach you to hang on a little more. And when the metaphoric or literal chairs are being put away, is might be when you see your actual story, right? So those sort of problem solving things of who do you talk to, what is being said officially, but what is the actual subtext, who holds power in a government department and who's actually speaking, all of those sort of things are things that you learn with people. And um, my newsroom journalism experience is limited, like a 5 6 years, but in those 5 6 years, me and my colleagues were all thrown into the deep end, and we were all told to solve problems somehow, and I guess we just conned ourselves into believing that we could. And then of course there were many senior editors who we could ask for advice, and that whole thing, it's really helpful if someone who's teaching you also puts you in the frame of mind to do it. Like, maybe you can't teach it, it can't be in a syllabus, but they can certainly put you in the frame of mind to do it, right? To teach you that journalism is about writing, but it's also about talking to people, talking to random people, hanging out in random places, doing a lot of like really pointless and vela stuff,
Yeah.
and that part, it's not like you can put it in an assignment, right? Like, and
Yeah.
score someone, but you can teach people to enjoy that and put them in a frame of mind for that. So I do think journalism experience in that sense helps. But if the point of your course is, now I'm going to teach you how to write a 2000 word piece which will, I don't know, talk about um contemporary dance developments in South Asia. I don't know, something. Okay. But in a fun way. And I'm going to teach you how to do that. Of course, a journalism teacher can teach you because it's a text, right? They
Yeah.
can teach. Um,
Okay, thank you so much. Me
mm.
and Aditi planned this in such a way that we alternate so that we get to ask you a question each at least. Uh,
Okay, sure.
so
Whatever way you like.
she's going. Thank you.
Hi, Aditi.
Hi, ma'am. Hi. I feel very starstruck at this point. So, my first question is about the city. So, a lot of people, including myself, have discovered the city Bangalore in general, and all the cities that we haven't discovered or we haven't visited through you. So, my question was that as a young journalist, how did you discover the city? How did you find the pockets of city that made it into your writing? How did it change after time? How are you discovering Canada right now because you're not here? And when you talk about a city, or when somebody asks you about a city that you have been to, because I remember you talking about having stayed in multiple cities as you grew up. So, is there some sort of catalog that you have in mind where you can tell if somebody asks you to give in summary sort of a description of a city, you could guide them, you could tell them, go to this place and you'll know what the city is. Is there something like that you have in mind?
That's interesting. Hmm. So I think the two cities that I know, relatively speaking, is Bangalore and Delhi. Delhi, I was extremely reluctant to befriend. For a very long time, I had a prepaid SIM, and this is like suicidal sort of thing to do if you're a journalist, because there are precise moments when your prepaid SIM will run out, right? And there's some very many like crazy things that have happened because I was refusing to commit. But so Bangalore and Delhi definitely, and I did think of these places as places where you could try new things. Like, so you try new things and you become a new person temporarily. But I also feel like I have that tendency a lot to imagine myself in new places a lot. Like, I would go to Hyderabad for a week and then I would imagine a full life Like, what would it be? Who would I be if I live in Hyderabad? Like, every time I go to Madras, I'm like super enamored and obsessed. And I would just imagine this like super exciting life that I would live in Madras. And the height of my delusions was, I think, there was a trip to Norway a decade ago. And in the middle of the night we went to some place where you see the lights, and I think I was like there and I was thinking, okay, I can't really imagine myself living here because it's north of the Arctic and it's very sunsan. But the next day I went to an island which is an actual island, and there is nothing except a husky farm. And there was like one dude who was Australian and very confusingly there. And so there were the huskies and the Australian and then the tourists and me and whatever. And I could fully imagine myself living there. And I was like, this is the height of delusion because this is like ridiculous. But I'm very, very easily persuaded that I could live here. This is cool. This will be my new version of myself, right? So in Canada, I haven't traveled a lot. I'm in a city called Calgary. In the summer, I went to another city called Vancouver, and sure, I mean, I went from Vancouver to another city called Victoria, and in a week in each of these places, I had imagined myself there. In Vancouver, I went in the summer, and I like to say that I did not see a single man with a shirt on. There was some like pandemic of shirtless men. Okay, like we were in a urban forest and some dude appeared pushing a stroller with a baby in it and he had no shirt. And it's very easy to imagine yourself living there, right? Okay, it's just aesthetically very pleasing. The next week I was in an island, this place called Victoria, which is a little city. And it is absolutely stunning. And immediately, of course, I was just like, yeah, I'll be here, I'll hike, I'll walk to work, I'll see the whales. But and again, it's so easy to imagine yourself living in these like extra beautiful places, but I can be under a flyover which is half constructed and fully imagine myself living there also and saying, ah, beauty. Okay, so just I don't know, it's some delusion, but it's also like handy. I mean, it's handy in a practical everyday sort of way, and it's handy as a writer also to be able to put yourself in weird places and think that, huh, I can make it, or my character can make it. It's possible.
Great, ma'am. If there is three places in a city, any new city that you go to, what would be those first three places that you go to get like the pulse of the city?
The pulse of the city. I don't know. I mean, I in an earlier time, I would say I would go to a bookshop or whatever, but I don't anymore. I mean, now I think about places like I've become, and this is a very weird thing for me, from the pandemic onwards, I have become marginally outdoorsy, like marginally. Like my idea of outdoors is let's go for a walk and let's eat cake. Okay, it's not let's go for whatever and live in a tent. It's not that. But I do enjoy the outdoors more, and I am interested in how that shapes people's idea of a good time. So I really enjoy Madras because partly because people have that relationship with the sea, or in the few times that I've been to Trivandrum or Kochi or all of those places. I'm really interested in how people are shaped by their environment, like how they hang out because of
Yeah.
that. Yeah, like you have a lake in the middle of the city, or you have a river, or all kinds of things. And now I think one of the few things that I feel unable to imagine is living in a totally flat environment, like just
Uh,
flat, like nothing going on. That kind of environment, I find it hard to imagine. But otherwise, I'm really interested in that stuff. Also, like in new places, I love grocery stores. I find like grocery stores are like magical, okay,
yeah.
because you go or like big vegetable markets. You go and you're like, what is this weird thing? Okay, and I remember discovering mango ginger for the first time.
Okay.
And it's one of those things that you think you have discovered it in that full Christopher Columbus sort of way. You're like, wow, and everybody else has already had it and made chutney out of it, right? So yeah, so I think grocery stores are interesting, and these sort of land or water bodies which people organize their lives around, those things also I'm super interested in. And yeah, in a fairly typical way, I'm interested in what do people like drink, like coffee or tea, and whatever. So I've become a bubble tea drinker. Okay, and it is totally caca and absolutely brilliant. Okay, it's just like so good, and it's like neon colors, and only ladies should drink it, but I drink it all the time. Yeah, I like that also.
Thank you, ma'am. I think next Professor Pranav has a
I
question.
saw how you sneaked in one small question there, Aditi. Uh, but so much of what you're talking about reminded me of short stories, like Pandemic of Shirtless Men. That's like a superb title. I
So
want
good.
to know about this only, actually, a little bit. There's this writer, Lydia Davis, that my professor Vijeta, she introduced me to an essay by her, where she talks about something called bother. Apparently, the short story comes to you when you look at something and that sort of moves something inside you, and you're bothered to write eventually. You start thinking about it, and then you bothered to write. Um, is that always been the case for you? There have been many times when I sit down to write because something has bothered me, but also sometimes I just, I have to just sit down and write. So curious to know about this, especially because you also have said that you're a deadline artist, right? So is the short story also some a result of that for you?
Honestly, deadlines really help and continue to help me. But if I think about that visceral experience of wanting to write a short story or anything at all, it's the same. It's that same feeling of making a really good PJ, like a really good one. Like you think about it, and then you sort of make it in your head, and then you are only laughing hee 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 like that, and you're just waiting to like unleash it on some innocent person who has not prepared for it, right? It's that same feeling. For me, that's the thing. So often when I'm in the zone, I'm like laughing because I'm like, I'm so clever. I'm amazing. Okay. Okay. This is my general feeling when I'm writing for fun, right? Whatever.
Uh,
And that fun means whatever. You're writing it for a deadline, or someone has asked you, or because you want to write it. But it it really, like, it is the most enjoyable thing I can imagine. This is just writing it, and then you just feel so pleased with yourself, right?
yeah.
And every once in a while, you'll find somebody else um, who I think also is feeling that feels, right? So right now I'm reading this book which is from the 1930s, so nearly 100 years old. It's a it's an unusual book. It's in Malayalam. It's called Charukatha Prasthanam. It's about the short story movement in Malayalam, and it's actually somewhere between Litcrit and how to, like almost a craft book. And it begins fairly po-faced, like he's got like very serious one chapter, maybe two serious chapters. After that, he just takes off, and then he's saying like rude things about other people's writing, and then just like having a good time. And so every now and then I put the book down and I'm like, oh, this man was so pleased after writing this paragraph. He was just like, yes, I'm a genius. Okay. Just, so I like that. Um, I know you folks had a talk with Carmen Maria Machado a few years right ago, and I saw her speak for the first time about 2 weeks ago, and she talks so much in so many interesting ways about where she gets her ideas from, and how, more importantly, how she converts them into work, and her sort of charm, and practice in finding things to write about it, but so pleased with herself, right? There's no distance, and like, like fake gravitas, nothing. And I love that. I
Yeah.
love that. I love that sense of like, I'm doing this really enjoyable thing, and haha, you just feel a little bit like you've gotten away with something.
I'll also sneak in one mini question. What does Nisha Susan do when she's envious of a writer? Since you're talking about all these people who are ha-haing, uh, do you get jealous? What do you do if you get jealous?
It's difficult to say. I mean, okay, this is again a sign of my overweening ego, that there are very few people that I feel jealous of their writing, right? I don't. I mean, there are many people whose writing is like amazing, and I admire it. I read it, I share it, I buy the books, whatever. But I also feel like, okay, this is something that they can do and I can't do. So I don't really feel it. I'm sure it's going to come that there will be a thing that I feel I can do, but I didn't do, and hence there has to be that match for jealousy. I think the jealousy comes in other ways, like um when you feel like um rushed, or you feel like you don't have time and you feel like somebody else has time, and
Mm.
that is a factor that I feel now, that I feel like I have seven things, and that idea of priority is not something I can figure right now. Nothing can be prioritized, everything is equally important and nothing is getting done. That feeling I'm not happy with. I resent that feeling. And when so I have in the PhD course that I'm in, I have obviously colleagues of various ages. I have people who are my age, and I have many young colleagues. And I do like look at them every now and then, feel like shit, I wish I had the amount of time they look like they have. I don't know. I mean,
Mm.
they maybe some of them don't have that much time also, but yeah, that bit I do feel envious or jealous of. The other stuff I don't, because very, very, I don't know what to say. I don't know whether it's a sign of deep security or deep delusion, but I don't.
Thank you.
Um, because you're talking about PhD, that's very fortunate because my next question is about
Oh.
something related to that. In an interview, you were telling that you come from a family of compulsive storytellers. So
Mhm.
I wanted to know how storytelling figures into academia. Like when you're writing a thesis or a research paper, we do something called autoethnography in our in our third semester, and that is very deeply rooted in something that I think like adjacent to storytelling, though it's very relevant to facts and oral histories and narratives. But I wanted to know how storytelling figures into academia. Is there a space for storytelling, or if there is no space for it? And how is the language that you use to tell your stories? Sort of, does it filter into academic writing? And if it does, do you correct yourself, or how do you accommodate it?
Right. Okay. I should actually clarify one or two things, and then I can properly answer. So I'm actually doing what is known as a practice-based PhD, which is in the 100,000 word output that the end of my PhD is expected to produce.
Hmm.
um, 80,000 words is a novel, and 20,000 words is a traditional research-based critical thesis, right? Um, there are different universities do this differently. Sometimes your 20,000 words is a reflection of the work that you did to produce the novel. So you're writing about your choices and stuff. Where I am, you're expected to actually produce a theoretical work of 20,000 words, which is connected, but can stand on its own. In 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 this sort of space in North American academia, especially when you're applying for scholarships and you're trying to get in, and the slots are like they're taking in two people, and 50 people are applying, or 100 people are applying, or whatever, depends. Storytelling is key. Okay, storytelling is key in multiple levels. One, it's your application package, whether you intend to do it or not, does tell a story. Now, it might be a fragmented story in that you haven't really thought, okay, what is my CV got to do with my statement of purpose when I'm applying, or what is my statement of purpose got to do with my PhD proposal? Maybe you haven't thought it through. But when the person gets it and they have 20 minutes to read it, and typically they have 15-20 minutes to read it in the admission committee, they read it as a story, right? They read it as like, it's like you send a messenger ahead of you to tell your life story. So that is definitely a thing. Within your PhD proposal itself, from the very first one that you write to get into university till the final one that you write a couple of years in, you are constantly improving the story, because in this format at least, you're adhering to what is known as the 5 para essay format almost. It's like a maybe a 15,000 word version of the 5 para format. But the very first thing that you are asked to say is explain, so what? Like, this is a question that you're constantly asked. I want to do the study of this person's work on this person's thing, but so what? Like, why should you? So the so what is a kind of plot element that you bring into academic work. Like, you have to, in some sense, make the reader convinced that what you're doing is significant, right? And significance doesn't mean cancer research, but it can be all kinds of seemingly obscure things. But it is significant, and you have to show how it is significant to you. There's a version of this where I was actually thinking about this yesterday, whether to take part in this competition, but I don't think I have the guts for it yet. There's something called a 3-minute thesis competition, where people from all over the university, from all departments, come in and they present their thesis work in 3 minutes. And it's like, you quickly do it, and then there are levels, and then you can go like into college and in the state and all that, and then there's money involved and prizes and stuff. And I was thinking, it's so interesting even to just watch. I think would be so much fun to see how people talk about their very specific work in a way that can be accessed uh, to other people. So I think that's one level for sure. The other level is also when you're researching something and you're reading something. um like I've started teaching properly for the first time this semester, and my students and I were equally like sort of bracing ourselves, because we had a 50-page Derrida essay in the middle of the course. So it was like this big hump, we were all like coming towards it together, and we're over the hump now, so we're very happy. But I did this exercise where I said to them, okay, tell me the latest episode of some online beef that you've been following, right? But don't tell me anything before. So they would say, uh, I don't know, they're shooting in the desert. So does this mean that they're together now or something? Okay, or he got drunk in the office, now HR is involved. So, but we don't know anything before. So we were all trying to solve this episode synopsis and try to figure it out. But so I was saying to them, us as a group reading that Derrida essay and then like sort of pulling our hair out was really like episode 723, right? Like, you don't know who Derrida is beefing with. Like, you have to piece it together, right? We did this essay over three classes. So in one class we tried to figure it out context free. The next class we did it with context. So we were like, okay, he's addressing this book, he's addressing this philosopher, he's having an argument about this, and then whatever, and what happens afterwards, and why is it that we're studying it all together. So that stuff of entering an academic telenovela episode 723, and they're trying to figure it out. It's so hard. But you have to tell yourself, okay, I have to figure out at least 200 episodes before this. Oh, that's the only way this is going to work for me.
That is so interesting. Thank you, ma'am.
No, not at all.
Sometimes I think that 3-minute thing should be a standard across all conferences.
But it must be terrifying for so many
Yeah,
people.
yeah,
Like, I can imagine myself doing it, but like dying while doing it. Like,
yeah.
so I'm actually telling myself that while I'm in the PhD, I want to do this once just to do it, right? or at least go watch and make a fool of myself, that's fine. But I think for many people, it would be just no. It's a
Yeah,
very like very specific skill set, isn't it?
yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah, we regularly have to do presentations of our papers for Viva, and I know like half of my class or like even me, like we freeze 2 minutes before and then we don't know what happened. So we have finished it, but we're like, oh, okay,
Oh,
it's
you were in
done.
a fugue state while
Yeah, yeah,
doing
yeah.
Yeah,
it.
Was that
yeah,
okay? Was that okay? Was I okay?
yeah.
I had a question for you about translation. There seems to be questions about translation or conversations about translation that has kept popping up throughout this meta. Jerry Pinto was saying the other day that you can give it a good shot, translation. And Ashok Gopal was saying yesterday that just do it. You can edit it later. Just do it, like that he was saying. And I remember long ago having thought that all translation is sort of like you're failing at it, and I don't know if that's too harsh a word. So I want to understand how you look at it and how we're supposed to, or what is the best way of trying to deal with this thing where you're trying to pull one language into another, but they're just not going to fit in the same way, right?
I don't know how, Pranav, you're
Uh,
asking
but
all these like incredibly like I'm now dying to speak to you about this for like 1 full hour. Okay, so I will not. I will be 3 minutes. Okay.
Sorry, 3 minutes.
In my, let's say in my okay, so I translated one tiny novel, right? And I went into it fully foolhardy and emerged out of it also fully foolhardy. Okay, because it's a really great book and it really like felt the right book for me. So I was able to translate it without suffering. Okay, I really enjoyed it. And I realized in that time that anything translation related is like candy for me. Like I'm super into it. Okay, so I can read the world's most dull thing on translation and find it entertaining, because for me it's really not dull. And so I mean, I came into the PhD partly with a proposal for a novel and partly with a proposal which was around translation theory. So again, foolhardy, and I have come into it, and then I started really working on it, which is started reading translation study stuff, and it is super, super, super entertaining for me. I love it. But one of the things that I did discover is that most of Western translation theory, which is based on a monolingual understanding of the world, is in this translation is eternally failing, you're just deferring meaning, you're dying, oh, so much suffering. Okay, which is, and we are from Bangalore. Like, by the way, my proposal is based on the fact that I'm from Bangalore. Okay, but my proposal is based on the fact that people from Bangalore are not suffering in
Okay.
translation. Okay, and I'm like, this is not how we do it. Okay, we are not using Rosetta Stone for 7 years to learn like half a language, right? It's not like that. People arrive like in Bangalore, they're working class, they speak 5 languages. And as someone who speaks Malayalam, English, I have difficulty with gender in Hindi. I have basic Kannada. I can understand any Tamil movie. Okay, so that's like some of 5 languages. I know that even on this Zoom call, I am the least multilingual person, right? So most people, even on this Zoom call, would speak more languages than me and with greater proficiency. So for me, reading stuff which is like where multilinguality is um, for only the extremely erudite, sitting in a library, or the idea that functioning in multiple languages is not normal. I felt like that cannot be the basis of translation theory for me, right? So at that level, I do believe that when Jai Pinto or Professor Gopal or whoever is saying these things, it's not something that they're just saying as a cheering and cheerful thing to say in front of a crowd of university students. It's not. I think it is a deep belief that you can do it, and it's fun, and it doesn't have to be perfect. Perfection is some stupid like thing that prevents you from doing work in generally, but definitely in translation also. So some of the like this seminal like epoch making translation theory in the West is based on the idea that the biblical story of the Tower of Babel, right? Do you know the
God.
story? Okay,
Yeah,
that
yeah.
basically that human beings were full of ego and they decided to build a skyscraper, and then God uh, smote them. Okay, I love that word. Like punish them, and the way to punish them was to break down communication, and then everybody couldn't understand each other because they were all speaking different language. But if you look at that story, and it appears in very very crucial translation theory, if you look at the story, that story is based on a sort of deep belief of um, homogeneity being necessary for things to work, right? And that you, if you're different, that you can't really make things together. And even even on literal construction sites in Bangalore, people are speaking 7 languages, and somehow skyscrapers are still being built. Okay, so I mean, yeah. So yes, I'm saying yes. I agree with the people who spoke to you that everybody should try translation, especially people from Bangalore. It should be part of your like you know, mm, I don't know, Scouts and Guides program,
Yeah.
NSS training. Little bit one shooting and little bit one translation.
Super. Thank you.
Mm.
Uh, the next question I have is I have two questions that sort of are like for me questions. But one of them is can you tell me the story of when Nisha Susan met red lipstick? Because I've been stalking your Instagram and I love seeing all the pictures where like there's lipstick, and I just thought there should be a story behind it.
This is really weird because I wanted to ask you what shade you were wearing, and I was like, let me try to be at least marginally like appropriate behavior and not be like gross and say, hey, what color is it?
This is Fair Beauty. I don't know which color, but
This is called fading beauty.
oh, Fair Beauty. FAE
Okay.
Beauty.
Okay. I was like, this is like a terrible name, fading beauty. Why do I wear lipstick? So when did I start wearing red lipstick?
Yeah, is there a story with red lipsticks?
No, I don't think so.
So
I
you
don't think so.
don't wear red lipsticks. Like red lipsticks are not good. Like don't
No,
wear.
no, I don't think so. Um, I think generationally, I'm from the generation which was always told you are fat. That was the big stricture, right? Like even if you were anorexic and like in hospital and on IV fluids, you would still be told that you're fat. So I'm from that generation. Full face makeup, which is foundation and lipstick, was relatively new. I think I'm definitely from the generation that would not be seen outside the house without kajal. So I mean, a lot of my teen years, my memory of it was just that one eye and then one eye this, and then your friend is shouting at you and saying, keep it closed, keep it closed. Why did you open it? And then you have to wipe it again and something. Okay, but
Yeah.
I don't think lipstick was a big feature. So I think lipstick is something that I started buying as a working adult, and yeah, and I don't remember any conversation around it, other than it's sort of fun. I think the weird thing that I did find interesting is that when I started taking pictures of myself wearing lipstick on Instagram, I was still at the very stupid stage where I didn't understand that Instagram was treating my photo uh, intrinsically with a filter, even if I didn't apply a filter. Like I would show it to my friend who understood tech more, and I would say, "This looks like I've put on a filter, but I didn't. So what is this?" Because I would be 6 shades whiter, right? So then that whole thing about how tech has sort of built-in racism, that stuff I didn't know. like early on, is what I'm saying. So that was a weird experience to like look at myself and say, this, what? But otherwise, I think in life and in the world around me, I don't think there were too many strictures about lipstick.
It's very refreshing to hear, ma'am, because I think when I was growing up, I'm not particularly like I heard being told not to wear red lipstick, but it was some sort of like you're Kamolika if you wear red lipstick, like you're bad. You can't wear red lipstick. You're a subtle
What are you
spread.
supposed to wear? Brown?
No, you're just not supposed to wear lipstick.
Oh, you're not supposed to wear lipstick at all.
Yeah,
Oh.
you're very plain faced and very somber like that. So, like, I don't know. I think when I started wearing darker lipsticks and went out, I automatically would self censor myself that, oh, everybody is looking at the lipstick, so stop wearing it. So that's why I was like curious to ask you if there is a
Oh,
story.
interesting. No, I think maybe because I was a working adult when I started wearing lipstick, and also like some of these experiments happened in contexts where, so I had like a parallel life as a journalist in Delhi where I would go to things, like I would go to evening things. And then so I had a wardrobe of like weirdly fitting things bought from Zara, and makeup that went with it and stuff. So when I moved back to Bangalore and I no longer work that job, I actually packed all of those clothes and gave it away because I know there is no place in Bangalore that I'm wearing a cocktail dress. It is just like not happening. Okay. So I think it also helps to be in contexts where you were expected to dress up, and all of that. So something stayed, the clothes went away, the makeup stayed, so yeah.
My turn. Huh? Okay. I read that you say that romance is conducive for creativity, right? And I have always had this problem where I don't know if the reason why I'm writing is legitimate enough. Started writing when I was 20. I started reading, writing everything when I was 20. I joined Joseph's, and I made my professor laugh, and I was like, bro, I want more of that. It's still just more of making impressing my professor and my girlfriend, and stuff like that. And so I never know if that's a correct reason to write. And I then read that, I mean, I didn't read actually. Professor Vijay told me that part of the reason that you're having a child is to write more. And I thought, okay, Pranava, the natural next step for you is to now have a child. Just need to find someone. And I was thinking that. And you also say that having two toddlers makes you a better reader. So I was really curious about romance, creativity, toddlers, working with them, all of that. Can you
Hmm.
please shed light on this?
See, the romance thing is very simple. I feel like it makes you feel alive and it makes you feel energetic, right? And you just, like, even if you're a late riser, you're suddenly early riser because you need so much time to like stare at the ceiling. Or I don't know, man. I like do weird things in the context of romances. Definitely, a lot of like running in the park, looking at the trees. That sort of
Oh,
very cliched shit that I'm into. So I feel in a very direct way it is beneficial to be in love, but I also think. Mm. So I was having this conversation with a friend the other day. He said to me, he's quite a bit younger and he's, I think, just finished the first draft of his novel. So he was asking me, what do you think? Do you feel like you write for other people? So I was like, yes. So then so he said, I was told that you shouldn't write for other people, you should write for yourself. So I was like, what do you think? And he said, I definitely write for other people. So I was like, thank God, now we can continue to be friends, right? Because if he had told me just I just write for myself and whatever, I would have been just like cancel this person. But um I definitely feel that the romance thing or making a professor laugh or all of that fits into my scheme of why we write, why we perform, right? Like right now the Olympics is going on, like people are doing ridiculous things. The Winter Olympics is just, it is ridiculous from beginning to end. Okay. And if you think about it, like if you break down some of the sports, you have two guys. One guy is on top of another guy, like a sandwich, and then he's in a like a tiny car, and then they're going down a mountain. Okay, now whoever invented this as a sport, I don't know, man. I don't know what you were thinking, but people were like are training for 4 years. They're like building muscles, and they're like, "I'm top, you are bottom, and then we will go down the mountain." Like, okay, but obviously, yes, human strength and ability is part of that, but it's also that you're in a community, right? Like you are in some snowbound community, and you're doing this to in relationship to each other. You're not doing this for yourself. Like those two guys who went down the mountain by themselves, they were like, we are only doing it for ourselves. Okay,
Yeah.
we are going down. And that never happened. So
Yeah.
I'm feeling all of this. It's really nice. It's really nice to be able to write and create art in the context of a community. um Vijay and I haven't known each other for that long, okay, and we've become close friends relatively recently also. But it is true that now when I write so many things, like not everything, but when I write so many things, I think of her. It's not because I am going to be like immediately emailing it to her, or not that. That's not that. It's because there is an ongoing conversation in, at least in my head, where I'm thinking about what she's written and like how does it relate. And that stuff is so crucial to making art,
Yeah.
right? Because it is, of course, you're tickling yourself and thinking, I'm a genius, but it is it is in a context, right? And yeah, I really believe it. I mean, I've I'm away from the country, and I don't know how long I will be away, but in my head it is possible to continue to write because there are there is a community in my head that I'm doing the down the mountain stuff for.
Mm.
Right? And the kid stuff is complicated. I do believe that if you were in any sense wasting time, you know, then if you have kids, that gets fixed immediately because you only have 2 hours, half an hour, 30 minutes, whatever, to do things. And then you have to be highly, highly motivated to finish. It's complicated because I feel like it's hard to do mm, longer projects which require sustained work with kids because you're doing work in patches. So you can't really think through a lot of things. So I'm able to work on short things quite fast, especially deadline driven things. I can turn things around
Mm.
fast. But to think of a thing for like 6 months in a row,
Yeah.
in a year in a row, as it is, I find it hard, because that's really not how my work has been progressing. But um, yeah, but with kids, it's hard. The other layer, and it's really useful, is you don't see yourself aging in the sense that 1 minute you're 32 and the next minute you're 39, and that feels normal. But if you have kids, the aging layer is very, very rapid. Like you can see it happening and you can see the clock ticking, and your sense of time and your sense of mortality is very much there. Like you start feeling like, okay, I better finish that thing because I know time is not. I mean, both in an everyday Monday to Friday way, but also in a in your lifetime where time is finite.
I think that's like a superb injection for all of us. Thank you. And I'm very happy to see that the sun has risen. So
Oh
you're
yeah,
happy
and it's
and
like in
warm.
my face now.
Yeah. I think Aditi has one more question for you, and then we can open it out for the viewers or listeners or whatever.
My this is also a me question, but and I think you have answered it in a way, but I did want to ask it that how do you respond to criticism in the way that when you've written something, I feel like every time I write in my head, my voice is going that it's wrong. So I'm very scared to edit it, and I'm very scared to show it to anybody, because I feel like if some one person picks on that one thing that I thought it was wrong, then I will think that the whole thing is wrong, and I wouldn't want to write again. So every time I write, I take, like, I think longer breaks because I'm scared that it's wrong. So how to stop doing that, or how do you respond to, not criticism, but like if somebody says something about what you've written, how do you take it?
That's, I think, very, very tough question. So, again, I feel like if you're writing in within a community, if your friends of friends, your colleagues, whether when your work is happening within that scheme, I feel you can be very brave, and brave is for you brave. Like, it's not like, oh, I'm going to be like super inventive formally. Maybe that's braveness for somebody, but for someone else, that's not. Even just like finishing a story is brave, right? So I feel like when you're within a community, it's much easier to do that because, you know, my kid's therapist has a line. She says, providing soft landings for big feelings, So I feel like that's very much possible that you can have a soft landing for a big feeling, and you are receiving it. Your work is being received lovingly, right? And then there might be problems like, this is very boring, or this beginning doesn't work, and or how can your heroine's name be Komalika? Like, have you thought it through? So those questions can be then asked very, comfortably, and everything is towards doing more work, right? I feel like the problem with criticism that I find, like, I think Pranav mentioned early on about this incident. I think I was 21. I just graduated from Mounts, and then I'd gone to the admission interview for Symbiosis. And at the interview, in a sort of parting way, the man said to me, the director, who said to me, "But you're not that good a writer." And I found it very funny. Okay, I found it very funny for two reasons. One is because I had 3 years of being in Mounts in a community. My friends, we ran things together, we ran magazines together, we read each other's work. My teachers very much invested in my work. I read their stuff. So I was sure, like, that he didn't know what he was talking about. The other thing that I was sure is that he was not commenting on my writing. He was telling me that I didn't know my place, right? So when criticism of your or whatever work that you've produced comes from that location, and you can feel it, you can smell it, that it is telling you about your place, then I feel like it's very easy to dismiss, right? Because it's not about the work at all. It's about other things, like people telling you you don't know enough to write about this. Um, so I think when I was under 21, I was obnoxious. Okay, like obnoxious often, but also it helped me. Like, I remember being an intern, and I was writing a feature piece about families where every single person has married into a different community. Like, so you have like three kids, and each of the kids have married into a different community. The parents are from different communities. So it was like a Sunday feature piece, and my editor worked on it. It got published. I think this was, towards the end of my internship. And one of the editors, who I wasn't working with directly, he passed by with a copy of the magazine and of the paper and said to me, "People who are not married writing about marriage," he said. Okay, so I'm like 19 and he's like 40. And so clear to me that he's just an uncle, right? I mean, it's a professional context, but he's an uncle, because when you're 19, you are just like everybody's an uncle. So, and I was like immediately pissed off. So when he said, people who don't know who people are not married writing about marriage, I said, you don't have to be a hen to know the eggs have gone bad, right?
Yeah.
So, and I remember these incidents so many decades later, because it is very clear that it's not about your work. It's about telling you to be humble, or wanting to humble you or whatever. That stuff, I mean, it's not, if you are lucky, you don't have that much in your life, but and if there is a lot of it, you have to like run away. But other kinds of critique can happen within a community in which it has space and like soft landings, right? So you can continue to work and you can continue to fix things, and everything can be fixed and edited, everything can be edited, so
Yeah.
so you should look up the story of Lord of the Flies, like how the novel happened and the editing story. It was only, I think, a fraction. Lord of the Flies was only like a, I don't know, page or two of an original novel. And then the editor said, dump everything and write this. So I don't know.
Thank you, ma'am. I think we will take questions from the audience now.
Sure.
Yeah, we'll just wait for a minute. I'm keeping track of the YouTube. I'll tell you once we get them. In case you got some more questions till then, you can ask.
Okay.
I had a question, but do you want to ask?
It's okay, you go.
No, it's okay.
I just want to know what Nisha Susan is reading right now and what she thinks we should all read.
Oh my
This
In
God.
this lieu of the same question, I had a question about what are the children's books that you'd recommend, and are they different from what you read as a child?
Oh, that is something I definitely want to answer. So, oh, it's very interesting. Yeah, it's completely different from what I'm. Okay, I should say a couple of things. Okay, this is random. The course I'm teaching for the first time is a course which is primarily in animal studies,
Hmm.
and the course is called Kids and Cubs because it's a cross between animal studies and children's literature. So we're looking at representation of animals in kids' books. And the reason why it's named Kids and Cubs is because, I mean, because it works, but also because one of my favorite books as a kid was this Russian novel. Um, Not novel, it's actually nonfiction. It's about a family of four girls in Kazakhstan who have a lot of animals. They have like a tiger and reindeer and baby wolves and all kinds of things. Anyway, I loved it. So I found a copy again, and so I am teaching a section of it also in this course. So I'm very happy about that. Kids books. I have two kids. One of them can read, and the other one is just learning. We go to the library a lot, once a week, um, and they lean heavily towards nonfiction, books about animals and things. I push fiction in there usually. And so we found a compromise, which is graphic novels for elementary and middle school kids. Uh, and it is amazing. It is so good. Some of the stuff is so good. There is one series called Mr. Wolf's Class, which is set of, I think, maybe 5, 6 books in a grade 4 class. And the pace is like art cinema pace. It is so slow. Okay. And like really random things are happening. And it's very, very nice. I really enjoy it. Then there's another series called Bird and Squirrel, which is the exact opposite pace. There's like hyper action drama from the first frame to the last frame. I love it. It's so good. Then there's the Babysitters Club series, which is for older kids, but there is graphic novel versions of that, and it is actually a little too old for my kids, but we read it anyway. It's just general fun.
And
You,
Professor
you,
Pranav's first question is also there.
No, we have lots of questions.
Yeah, okay.
Sorry.
So sorry.
okay,
Okay, lots have come in, so I will try and ask all of them.
okay,
Okay, so the first one is, what can women do to become more intelligent in dealing with career, love, family problems?
Are you?
Please
I
share a
don't
question,
know.
ask her name
I,
also.
I'll say later.
Oh no. I feel like I immediately should develop pneumonia and run away. No, I don't know how we should become more intelligent. I don't think intelligence is a problem. I, I think I think women work in tough environments which are stacked against them. It's not because, you know, it's not it's not that women are not prepared. Women are prepared, but then, have you heard this like internet thing that's going on, which I mean, it's a meme that keeps reappearing in different forms. I keep laughing, where a woman says, referring to a man, "He is my rock," and another woman, her friend, says, "And you are." I hope I'm pronouncing this correctly. "And you are Sisyphus, like you are just rolling this rock uphill." Okay, and anyway, I love this meme, which is just like sort of saying you're constantly dealing with all kinds of things over and over and over and over and over and over again, right? So yeah, I don't think this is about getting up in the morning and doing like squats or everything. I just I feel like the environment for working women, an environment for women in relationships is stacked against them. I mean, we have good old patriarchy, and we have the caste system, and I lived in India, so it's complex. It's Having said that, I feel like getting up in the morning and doing 20 squats is not a bad idea generally. Okay.
Okay, thank you. I think we'll start doing
Sorry,
that tomorrow. Okay, next question. Have you left books in between because you didn't enjoy reading them anymore? Which ones?
all the time. I mean, all the time. I used to be someone who finished things, but that was a long time ago. No, I leave books in the middle all the time now. Um, and in a academic context, also I had to learn how to do that. Because I thought, oh, now I've checked this book out of the library because it looks relevant for whatever I'm studying. I should read it from the beginning to the end. And then I had to have friends who are more experienced in this kind of reading explain to me, no, 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 you read the first two chapters, and if you see that it's relevant for you, you take notes. Otherwise, just give it back to the library. So yeah, I stopped reading halfway a lot. I have no guilt about it. By the way, I used to think DNF DNF, DNF in the Goodreads context or Reddit context, DNF is did not finish. For the longest time, I thought it was did not fuck with. Okay. I was like, okay, did not finish. That's actually correct.
Okay, I think that's a good thing to think also in any case. Okay, all right, I'll move on to the next question. Shweta Philip says, love, love, love your earrings. On that note, how do you think about fashion when writing characters?
This is a really cool question. I don't know. I mean, I do like to think about what people are wearing. Like I might not put it uh, into the piece, but I do like to think about what people are wearing, and what potentially they could be wearing. And of course, those things change, right? The meaning might change for you. So if you put it in, they may not quite understand, like someone later may not quite understand what that means. Like there was a period where you would describe someone as wearing matchy matchy clothes, right? And that was an insult, because that means you hadn't learned how to dress properly. You were just wearing what your mom had taught you to wear, like top and bottom matchy matchy. And then there was a whole like, no, I'm going to do the mix and match and contrast thing. And now we've cycled back to matchy matchy, and it's a thing, right? So I've often witnessed arguments in like hetero couples where the woman is wearing something matchy matchy, and the man has not kept up. So he's saying, oh my god, you're so matchy matchy, you look like my mom. And she's like enraged, and she's saying, these are chords, and so the meaning of fashion does change. So when you, like, if you put it into fiction, you have to be sort of prepared that 10 years down the line people may not understand quite what that means, right? Like it's like using slang, like what does it mean? Or tech also, it gets dated, as I guess what I'm saying.
Mm. Okay, thank you. All right. I will ask the next question. So this is Stacy from my final year journalism class, who I'm happy to see here. So she says, "Hi, I'm Stacy. I sometimes tend to blur the lines between my serious writing and unserious writing in the same piece. How do I seamlessly blend the two?"
Mhm. Okay, I'm guessing here what you mean is not that you're unserious about writing, but that you mean that you're writing about something serious, and but you're also making jokes. Is that what you mean, Stacey? I mean, I hope I'm getting it right. I feel I feel like that's fine. I mean, I feel this is my particular aesthetic choice, that it's more than fine. It's desirable even, right? Again, I want to talk about a form that I'm only learning to write now, which is the academic paper. And I have been to conferences and stuff before and watched people present and not understood things and felt like maybe they're addressing something very technical, and that's some reason I'm not understanding what it is. Or sometimes it is not fun, and then you feel like that's okay. That's not it's not meant to be fun. Everything doesn't have to be fun. Um, but I find that as I'm writing something now and I'm enjoying it, I'm enjoying the process of research and writing and all that. I do find that it's okay to make jokes within academic writing also. um, and maybe the delivery is different, maybe the sentence structure is not in a knock knock who's there format, but it is possible to have like shared humor even in fairly formal pieces of writing. And I think that's normal. And like I said, for me, it's a desirable aesthetic. I think if that's your tendency, you should just go for it.
Okay, all right. Thank you. Okay, Anush asks, "How does one keep returning to writing?"
Oof, what a tough question. Um, I feel like the best thing is to not have a long gap between things. Even when you're working on a long project, or it's just that you've written something and like you've written a short story and it's been 6 months since you wrote something else. It gets harder and harder, in my opinion, if you have a long gap. The picking up things, um, either the project itself or the picking up the mood and ability to write is harder with a long gap. um, I would say, like, if you're in that sort of productive, I want to produce a book in a year or 2 years or whatever, that's part of your goal. I would say don't even allow like a 2 week break. Even if you just even if you have a shortcut to that document on your desktop and you just click it open every day for like staring at it for 10 minutes and doing something. I find it very hard nowadays when I've not looked at something for a few weeks and I've come back to it. I'm like, not just like what am I writing about, also you start questioning why you're writing it. You're like, why was this funny or entertaining to begin with? You've sort of lost the, I mean, literal plot you remember, but the engine of enjoyment and energy that runs through it, it's hard. Yeah, it's I mean, I can only recommend against letting go for a long stretch.
Okay, all right, thank you. Jerusha asks, Jerusha is in second year, our English journalism psychology course. She says, "I read your piece, On the Street Everybody Walks, which comforted me with feeling too much by being too political around my peer spaces around my peers. I think she means how can I tune my own writing for comfort in times like this?
Hmm. It's an interesting question. I don't know. I mean, obviously, there are different ways in which you can do it. Um, Sometimes it is straight. You can write yourself into comfort by through wish fulfillment, right? In your fiction, you can write things where you win everything, or your stand-in wins everything, and that's so nice. Like nobody else is writing you in as a heroine. You only produce a story in which it's like, when like little kids draw pictures and they give themselves muscles also, and they're like flying also, and you can do the version of that, definitely, and that is comforting. But sometimes it's not working through fiction. Sometimes it's working through ideas and arguments in an essay. You might go the back and forth, agreeing, disagreeing, but no, no thing in an essay. And that process, you might reach somewhere else from where you started, but having worked through the objections in your head is of deep comfort also. There are, yeah, I mean, I think that can also be comforting.
Such a lovely image. Okay, so I think a couple more questions, then we'll stop. Okay, who has generally been more irritating in your work life so far, men or women or both? This is from Professor Vijita.
Mhm. Yeah, this is an interesting question. I feel like I feel like men have been irritating in typical ways, like stereotypical ways, right? Right. All the usual shit, not understanding your context, um, assuming that what you're reading is not important, assuming that what you're writing about is not important, um, because they live in that frame where everything that they are doing is more important. I'll give you like an example. Once my colleague and I were sitting next to each other, and it's like, chairs next to each other, and my colleague did work that I really respect. He was doing very tough investigative work, where he was proving that a Supreme Court judge had um, financial stakes in a judgment that he had made, that there were financial implications for the judgment that he had made. And it had something to do with the city of Delhi and its urban planning. So, very tough work. And he had done a lot of tough stories, but I think this was like scary for him because it was a Supreme Court judge. So, I mean, I completely supported the kind of work that he did. And the entire time that he was working on that story, I was on the phone for 2 days talking to Malayali men. Okay, this is all I was doing. Like I was talking to Malayali men and asking them about themselves. And then I wrote this like 4-page essay about Malayali men. And it was like the most popular thing that I had written for many years. But while I was doing it, I was having a ball. Okay, like it was so funny because I was like talking to these, either I was talking to men themselves or I was talking to other people commenting on Malayali men. I was so entertaining, and I was like, ha 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 ha. I was laughing on the phone, and my poor colleague was like doing this like really like tough job, and he never said anything snide that I remember. I don't think that was his style, but I'm sure there were others around us who thought that his work is more important than mine, and that mine is easy. And I do think making phone calls is not that hard, but I also feel like no, not one colleague of mine would have been able to write that essay that I did or have those conversations that I did. So I feel like no one was going to give me an investigative journalism award. I wasn't expecting it, but I feel like the context in which he and I lived made it very clear that the work that he was doing was hard and important, and that he was deserving of awards. And the context in which I live, it was like, oh look, she's on the phone and having like this like random ha 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 he he conversations. So definitely there is that sense that you carry with you about whose work is more important and why your work is like really like it's just like lighthearted and not difficult at all, where I know it's very difficult. I know that uh very few people could have written that piece. I know maybe like even now, like 20 years down, I feel like there are very few people who could have written that piece. So like living in the world, sometimes it is not about men saying things directly to you. Sometimes it is. Sometimes they do say stupid things. But a lot of the time it's about living in a world where the value systems are loaded against what you think is important.
Okay, thank you. Okay, just one last question, and then I think we can wind up. Okay, any practices that make your life a little easier when it comes to reading and writing?
Hmm. Practices. I don't know. I mean, um, because my time is very choppy now, like it's divided between a lot of things. I do find that goal setting is something that I have to do more and more and more deliberately now. So I have to say, I have to get through these 5 books this week, even if it just means cracking it open and reading the first couple of chapters and deciding whether it's for me or not. I Yeah, goal setting is much more important for me now. And so when I do get like half an hour or an hour where I'm not being traditionally productive, because I'm just loafing for some reasons, I try to not squeeze any work into that. Like sometimes I'll find myself in the library and I'm there to meet someone and I'm early. And a lot of the time, like 9 out of 10 times, I'll be like, oh, let me do some work quickly, like check my mail, send some things, whatever. But sometimes I'll tell myself, no, actually, let's just go to the sixth floor and do random browsing, just like wander around and look at rubbish and eavesdrop on people's conversations and drink coffee. So, like my productivity to loafing ratio has shifted a lot. So I have to now tell myself that you do need to do time pass. You do need to waste time and like be useless. And that's really like good for you. It's like improves your skin.
Okay, thank you, Pranav. Over to you.
Um, okay. Thank you, ma'am, so much for joining us. Uh,
Thanks.
with
I had a really good time.
Yeah, I'm sure that everyone listening to you did. It was such a lovely conversation, and I feel one of the to answer Nifty's questions, one of the practices that we should do is go back to some Nisha Susan writing or listen to Nisha Susan interview to feel
You're
that
very
urge
kind.
to write. Right. Before we close, I just want to let everyone know that tomorrow we will be watching Down the Drain, a documentary about um, people working. Uh, Sorry, I'm not sure what the documentary is about, but it's a documentary by Nitya
Bangalore
Mishra.
sewage, yeah, Bangalore sewage system.
A sewage.
Bangalore Sewage System
Yeah.
in the name. Sorry. And that's at 4:30 tomorrow. So I invite all of you to please join us. Right. Thank you. Have a nice day. Good morning to you, ma'am.
Thank you so much, ma'am. I'm so sorry. Current went immediately, and I'm not able to switch on camera. But I wanted to thank you a lot. I had the most.
Into the darkness, I reach my hand, Aditi.
Thank you, ma'am.
Bye. Bye.
Thank
Thank you
you.
so much. Thank you.
Bye. Bye. Bye.